All right, hello everybody, and welcome to the Lighting Critique. We've got Ruby and Ronald and Miguel on live. We've got a few images to go through today, and we will start, since you're on live, we will start with yours here. So this is the update, again, going back to the original. This was the reference imagery that we were working with. Miguel, correct me if I'm wrong, but you were working on generating some different AOVs and adjusting them to kind of define a look a little bit, and also this has definitely changed quite a bit in terms of the structure of the shot as a whole from where we were originally. Is that correct?
Yes, it was trying to separate the two different colors in the room.
Yeah, and I really think that you're doing a really good job of that now, and I think they're coming together really well, and there are just a few components about this that I kind of want to tackle. And again, please take all of this with a grain of salt. There's a lot of I'll look at the reference and then talk about how we can get closer to it, but know that reference is just a guide. It's just a key. You can obviously, modify or change it, individualize it, customize it for your own artistic needs. But one of the things that I'm noticing is just the amount of ambient light that's kind of in this space. Versus what we have here. There's a lot more even if you kind of just tone this down or scale it down a little bit, which is a tactic I like to do for I will make it even smaller for kind of comparing things, is that you kind of get this sense of how it is structured. This one's got a little some more mid-tone values, where yours has got the darker, richer blacks in there as well. So one of the things that, if you wanted to, that I would work on as your next iteration would be to kind of find, it's tough, right? Because there are some darkness in the corners here. So keeping some of this, keeping some of the darker values up in here, but while maintaining a little bit more lift overall. And the way that I would do that would be, it would be one of kind of a combination of things. Number one is I would push the intensity of this light coming through a little bit more. I think you can go a little bit stronger with it. Looking at the reference, it kind of gives an impression of it being a little bit brighter. And I think you might be able to. And here's the thing with it, is that if you're in Nuke anyway, one of the things that works really well is if you wanted to pull it back to that, because pushing this light stronger will create more bounce light into the space in a really natural way. But if you render it out as an EXR, an extended pixel range, you can pull back those values of it the light spot on the ground in Nuke to get it more into the range that we were seeing in the reference. So you can kind of do both. You can leverage the secondary light that you would get from a brighter contribution and maintain about that level of brightness. The other thing I would say is that compositionally, I'm wondering, this feels a little bit pushed to the edge. I almost just want to move that out just a little bit more. And then what you can do is so this one has, the haze is brighter around the window and a little bit thicker around the window than it is as we get further away from it. I think you can actually lower these lines down a little bit so it kind of hits in here, and then allow this to kind of fade off as it comes down, so that you can still maintain those separate spaces of color. And I think that would be a nice element as well.
Would that be better in comp or through the lights?
Through the lights, initially, okay. Yeah, because it's just a matter of taking, because this pocket of light kind of does feel like a central interest point, the way it is here. It's kind of right. It's lower, but it's pretty central in the image. And I would work to kind of make that in a more central location. And then the other thing you can do for getting more ambient light would just be to put an area light down here and then just shine light up into the space a little bit more. Could be a way of doing that.
I do have one, but it's very, very minimal.
Yeah. So just keep working on balancing those values out a little bit. Yeah.
Okay.
And then, but the key to that one is just making sure that the radius is large enough to where you're not getting super sharp shadows from it. In terms of like this is now flowing better and making more sense and allowing me to focus on that space. I think one of the things, I can't remember, I think this prop has a light bulb in it. Just make sure that has an emission setting, or like it's glowing a little bit in the shader, so that it feels like an actual light source. Like it's actually, like it needs, like whatever's happening in here needs to be brighter than the light that's hitting the table from it. Like the source always needs to be the brightest part of it. And then at some point, good.
I know there's a bulb and it usually overfills, kind of really overblown kind of sense.
You can find a little bit of a balance in there. Like you can.
Would also like a flat plane that's see-through, just hitting that light, would that make sense?
What do you mean by a flat plane? Can you describe that a little more?
Like a plane, you thin it out, kind of see through and let the light hit through it.
Maybe.
And
you can play around with it.
Blows it out in a sense.
Yeah, I mean, you can play around with it. I think, I mean, for me, I like to feel. Yeah, I mean, play around with it and see. We can take a look at it in the next iteration, but but I think that, let's see, let's add this on there. I kind of take this and blur it a little bit.
Yeah, because I think I did a bulb last time, but it didn't really get as bright as I would want it to.
Yeah, so it's really about getting, and I'm just like mocking it up here, but it's really about getting that emission in the shader setting.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it's much more about the shader than the light itself, because, and I'm just adding these up here. So it would, like, this is, again, not the best version of this, but it would kind of,
yeah, that makes more sense. It just didn't look like that.
Yeah. And it's funny because you're like, no, it's the light source. I need to turn the light brighter, and it's two different things going on at the same time. And then at some point, let's look at this reference again. So at some point, yeah, it'll be cool to get more variation outside the window. Just having like the solid color out there will, like, it's a pretty big part of the image. And again, because it's like if you squint at the image, it's the brightest part. So that's the first area that we're going to look at too, as well as that bright spot on the ground. So making sure that there's something out there, like a little moon, or actually you wouldn't see the moon if the light's coming in this way, but like having maybe like a silhouette of a tree. There's something out there to kind of get to expand the space and give it a world out there.
Okay.
Yeah, but like we can deal with that later. That's all secondary stuff. It's really about just like building up the structure of it.
Yeah, it was. I was thinking just putting a placeholder just to have it there, just to give me a visual something.
Yeah, that's totally fine. Better than like emptiness, blackness out there. So that's good. All right, cool. Well, I think that's a good first step for you to go on. Does anybody else have any thoughts on this?
Just one note. Maybe the blue atmospherics coming in. Maybe you could blur the edge of it a bit. Yeah. Or maybe if you're not doing it in a comp by making the radius of the light bigger, it would blur the edge of it in render, I think, as well.
Yeah, and that will actually create a more natural blurring of the edge, and that it would keep it tighter on the base and allow it to kind of glow out as it goes. And then the other thing, and whenever I integrated haze into a shot, I always played around with like maybe adding in a little bit of glow. There's like if you're a nuke, there's a glow node. You can glow it up a little bit too, and that might. That kind of softens it. It brightens it a little bit, but like it really just kind of makes it feel more volumetric and makes it feel like it's more in the space. The other thing you can do too at some point, and this would just like you can add little dust particles floating through once we get the shape and everything laid out, and that's a simple thing. That's just like changing. I mean, you can do it in. I'm trying to think. Do I have a brush here that can do that? Nah. Anyway, there's brush settings you can do inside of a Photoshop to get that too. So So you can like
Okay.
mix in some sprinkled dust particles, and this is just a still.
Okay.
Cool. All right, great. We will hop on. Anybody else with anything live before I kind of go through some of these other submissions? All right, cool. So this first one. Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, could you repeat?
Oh, so I was just saying if anybody that if Ronald or Ruby had, if you all had anything that you wanted to look at before I kind of, because I'm trying to hit everyone who's on live first, and I think you're all good.
Yeah, all right. I'm still working on your notes on the
Yeah.
Xenomorph one. So not yet.
Sounds good. All right, so we're going to start off here with Asha's. So this is a iteration of the lighting challenge. This was her reference imagery. So this reference imagery is both cool and interesting in that it's a combination of what looks like a photoreal trees in the far background with a much more stylized, conceptualized thing in the foreground. But the thing that I want to point out about this is not that, because that doesn't really matter. It's just like how this is structured, right? There's haze going on, but the haze is like happening around the perimeter and around here. Everything right in the middle is much darker. It's the only source of like real saturation. There's the red eyes, a little bit of the red in her garments, and the blood coming off of her hand. And then there's these dark branches in the foreground, and really those are just framing elements. So that's really just to frame it in. And the reason why this is important is this is a similar feel to the scene that we have for the lighting challenge, in that there's a lot of stuff going on, and we need to figure out a way to really kind of focus in on what the area is that matters the most. So with this one, I mean, I think the color is falling into alignment pretty well with this kind of color scheme. This one feels a little bit brighter, and there's also, this one's a little more cohesive in that everything's kind of this cyan color. This one we've got the sprinkled in greens and stuff, but like once you kind of add in some atmospherics, I think that will kind of move you in that right direction. Let me go ahead and do this too. So I'm just make this a little bit brighter in some of these areas. So actually, I'll turn that down for now. So one of the things that I think that you should really focus in on is that structure that I was just discussing. So things like, how are we going to, because I feel like the main, and the way that it's kind of laid out, it's very like symmetrically balanced in that the focal point is going to be right here in the middle, this like little door, because we've got this path that kind of leads up to it. So how do we get the focus to be on that? There's a few things that we can do. I mean, obviously, like there's things like you can position a key light to kind of pass through these trees, and so it just kind of like hits up right there, and that becomes the brightest element. And then behind, we can make the haze thicker so that it's allowing, and because when we're doing that, it's the same thing here. It's allowing this to fall back into space, and then all this area down here to kind of fall back because there's no much less contrast, and really allowing the contrast points to stand out here. So I really think that you can do something similar. Now, this is another example too of how maybe you can take something, and it doesn't have to be tree branches, but something into the foreground elements here that'll really help guide our eyes back through this path, because we really want to use the natural elements of this path to kind of lead the viewer's eye back directly where we want to go to. So maybe it's a matter of darkening some of these areas around it and just allowing the audience to see that. So that would be that's the biggest challenge with this, because like if I just kind of focus on this region up here, I can't tell, like if I'm just looking inside this box, I can't necessarily tell what's the tree, what's the mountain behind it. Like spatially, I get a little bit lost. So just separating that out is going to be the biggest key for you going forward. But yeah, I mean the good thing is you've got, it looks like everything's functioning pretty well. The other question that I would have you do is that these crystals that are in here, unless, let me think about it. So unless you really want those to be a story point, something that we're aware of in the scene, I would tone them down a little bit. Just because, like, again, squinting at it, they kind of become the brightest thing in the image, and I'm just very aware of them. So maybe just pulling down the shader on that, because it feels brighter than anything else in the scene. Now, if that's a major part of the story and you want to glow them up and have them cast some light on the surroundings a little bit, like we can do that too. But just something to be aware of. But yeah. All right, cool. Anybody else have anything for this before we move on to the next one? Take my little drink of water while I do that. If I can keep talking, I think we're good to go. All right, cool. All right, Darwin, this is your first submission. Awesome. A lot of driver references. That we had a lot of images from this film because it really, really, really is a beautiful film. Like between the color, the key to fill ratio, all the shaping of the light, it's just like this is really cool. So normally this is interesting. So normally when we get a kind of a combination of tungsten and moonlight, like kind of a blues and oranges, they'll often be on different sides of the face. So one will come in from this way, one will come in from this way. In this particular case, we've actually got something cool going on. So there's this dark shape here, which is kind of no light. Then there's this area in here that's all kind of moonlight that's coming in through the windows. And then there's like a rim of the brightest, warmest light coming in. And that's from probably a street lamp that's just outside the car. Or what's meant to be a street lamp, probably something more man-made and set up for the film shoot. So I would really like to see that structure here. So you've got kind of a more traditional key to fill thing going with that. We've got the key light coming in here and then fill light kind of coming in here. I would like to see you flip that a little bit. And this would be kind of two different spotlights. So one, again, that would kind of hit here with the cool light and then see if you can balance out with just like a little rim of the really bright, warm light on the side, and then allow some of this area in here to go into the darkness. So allow that to be the structure of what you're building out here. So I think that would be the biggest one. I mean, your colors seem right on par with, with the reference. It's just the way that they're being combined and the way that they're being mixed. So that would pretty much be it. But you're getting some good shaping, and then just like messing with the radius of the light too, because these are some pretty my paintbrush. These are some pretty sharp shadows here. So just making sure that those are going to get softened down a little bit to kind of match the reference a little bit more is great. Ooh, the wrong way. But yeah, like man, the shaping of this light. Like look at the specular highlight on his head. Like this little bit coming across here. Position of that, just like reading out some of the main elements. So actually this might be a couple different spotlights for you. And that, yeah, because you've got the kind of the bigger, softer blue light coming in, and then again, like just that little orange rim. And then you could get another spotlight to kind of get the rims on these. And then maybe like one other element, like maybe a little rim on that guy or something. But I think that could be really cool. So great reference, good color choices, just a matter of matching up the look of it a little bit more. So really good start. All right. So I think, yeah. So last up we have Krystina, who's doing we've got a daytime and a nighttime version inside of Unreal, I believe. But yeah, let's go ahead and take a look at these. So I wanted to start with, actually, I think we want to start with the daytime one. There's the reference that I want to kind of go through. So same exact issue, if you skip to this part, same exact issue that Asha was having with hers, and that is a complex scene with a small center of focus, right? So we really have to lean into what the structure of the shot is. How are we going to get the read on that? So there's inside your reference, there's a couple of really telling things. So number one is like using this kind of like thin, narrow strip of light down the middle is a really good way of focusing us. I love this, using another color, not in like left to right, top to bottom space of the image, but back to front, like layering Z depth by using color is a really cool one. And then allowing the kind of the silhouettes of those to stand out. This one's a little bit harder to read, but you can see there's a little bit of clearance around the tree, and it's just like a little bit of dark over light to get the read there. And then the last one, so these are, especially for your night shot, and actually for your day shot too, but these are such good examples of directing the viewer's eye to specifically where we want it to go. Like this very literal beam of light coming in here, and it's the only bright patch on the ground, and our subject is standing right in the middle, is a great way of doing it. Again, like building up haze and allowing the brightest part of the image to happen here, and then allowing the darker silhouette of the character to read out from it is really good. And then same thing here, just like combining out, it's generally dark, but allowing the brightness to kind of lead our eye right here in the middle from all directions is a really good one too. So we'll start with the nighttime one. So I think that you can do something similar, because there appears to be like the belly of this is kind of a glowing element, and I really think that you can kind of lean into this look a little bit more so like kind of allowing the rest of the image to get a little bit darker. Start there. So if we allow this to get a little bit darker, and then I can take this and just grab this, got that. Cut that out, and then now this bear all of a sudden push this much brighter. Now, if you compare, let me just merge these two. Like our eye is able to really center in, right? Really, really focus in on what's going on. And that's just by making a couple of quick tweaks there. You can also, like the haze, you can build in haze back behind the character, and that way the more contrasty elements of the character will stand out a little bit more. Like if I did, again, this is a real janky mock-up of it. Do it this way, actually. Nope, that's not what I wanted to do at all. So you can have like a beam of light coming in here, the haze settles behind the character's glowing itself, and really can stand out in a much stronger way. So really, really work on building out that structure. And same thing with the daytime one. I like it. Composition, I do like this positioning better. It might just be a matter of shifting the camera over just slightly to taking it and just rotating it over just a little bit, just to get the character a little more centered out. But again, same thing. So let's figure out a way to structure this shot so that we can really get the read on the character. And I think it would be a matter of taking the haze off the character and allowing some stuff to kind of build up back behind it. And then so haze back behind it, darker the character, kind of glow it up. The snow is a little bit literal at this point, in that it's just like a lot of like visual dots around the screen, much more than snow, which would be a little bit streakier in a photograph. It really, and actually, if you're doing this in Unreal, it really all depends on your final presentation. Like if this is for like a game studio or something like that, you probably want to do like a fly through. So maybe it's okay, but like you would need something a little bit more motion-y inside of that. And maybe this is just a still frame with what the motion is. I'm not quite sure. But yeah, for both of these, I think that, I know you were working with the color. I was reading through the comments with Sergey. I think we can work with the color. I think it's just to take a pause with both of these and really get the structure of it laid out there. All right, cool. All right, Asha, I see you're here. Sorry about the mix-up on the time of this. I did go over yours a little bit already. You can watch on the recording, but if you want, I can go through the notes here real quick for you. Sure. I'll do it again.
Sure, that would be nice.
All right, great.
If it's okay with you.
Yeah, no problem. So basically, I was saying, so it actually worked out well that that Krystina and you both have very similar scenes in that they're very complex visually, like lots of stuff, and really kind of we need to use what we have to really focus the audience's eye on where we need them to go. So your reference is great, right? There's haze all over it, but there's a couple things that are allowing us to really center in. There's the more contrasty elements of her hair and this tree creature back behind her. I don't know what this is, and then also like these dark elements of the foreground are out of focus, so we don't focus in on them, but they're really used to like as a framing element to allow us to focus on the character. And then we also have a little of the usage of the color red, not only the eyes, but there's like little touches of red in the blood, in her garments, and on her it looks like splatters on her skin. I'm not quite sure what that is, or maybe it's a tying wrap thing. Not quite sure. But either way, the red color brings us into the middle too. And I think that is a great structure for building out your image. So you've got you've got this going, you've got everything starting to work well. I think that your colors are falling in line, kind of the overall softness of the light of this overall. I do think there's a little bit stronger of a key light on this character. You can see like by the key to fill on her face. So I think that you can potentially put in a stronger key light and having a little more key light direction. But I really do think we need to structure this in a way that's going to allow the audience to read in to not only this door, but also just kind of like this path that leads back there. So we can do it through, and I'll show you some of the, Krystina has some beautiful references too. So again, like you can use like this kind of column of light down the middle to focus us in there. You can use this colorful haze in the background, the kind of warmish haze to push back in the space and allow stuff to pop forward. And these are great for, again, directing the viewer's eye. Like there's a very literal beam of light coming through here that kind of centers in on this character. This one is like, again, haze in the background, but it's like brightest in the middle and then getting the dark silhouette of the deer, moose, elk, I'm not quite sure what that is, to read off of there. And then this one too, like darkness all around, brighter coming through here to like really focus the audience's eye right there. So it's a lot of that type of stuff. So it's like, do we want to put something in the foreground here to kind of flank out the foreground and allow us to focus in here? Do we want to layer together some haze back behind the tree to get the darker elements of the tree to go forward? I mean, maybe we can go even more literal with it and open up that door and allow some like red light to kind of pour out of it, or warm light to kind of pour out of it to invite the audience into the space there. But it's really all about structuring that. And then the other thing I said was these crystals, they're just whiter and brighter than the surrounding elements. If they're a key part of the scene, awesome. We can make them glow and have them cast some light onto the ground and some emission and stuff, and play that up a little bit. But if they're not, like, then we should probably tone them down. So it's really just about seeing where they stand in the little story that we're trying to tell too. And we could even, I mean, maybe if you wanted to glow those up, we could even reposition those to kind of, like, those could help lead the audience's eye back into this space too. So we've got some options here. But the good news is that we are 9 days into the month. You've got and we've got 2 months on this lighting challenge. But you've got everything set up. Now it's just a matter of continuing to work and refine it. Because I always find that like just getting things up and running is the hardest part mentally for me. And then once it's there, it's a matter of just tweaking it around. So did you have any questions, or did anybody else have anything to add?
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. All right, y'all. That is where I'm going to wrap it up for today. We're trying to get poor Ronald, who's inching up on midnight. We're trying to get this into. We're trying not to work you past midnight on this. But yeah, so thank you all for joining in. Last call. Any last bits before we break for the day? All right, cool. All right, thank you all for joining in as always, and I will see you back again on Friday. And I'll be doing written critiques between now and then, but the next live video one will be on Friday. All right, be good, everyone. Talk to you soon.
Okay.
All right,
Bye-bye.